Everybody, and just hold on. Let me actually make sure we record. Okay, we got volume. Cool. Just want to do a quick little video. I really meant to record a video the other night. There was this guy that he hit my mom's base, and so he's in the same sector I am. It's in a no-hit sector. We chatted over the comms about, that he wants attention and he's hitting friends of mine and stuff like that. So let's see, I did send a little, what did I do? Here we are. I sent a little fleet. This is my raid fleet, right, which has no armor. So didn't do so well against the Scorpions. And then he sent a little fleet over to my base. I am hoping that already had some damage, because he really did almost nothing. Because you can imagine my entrance, that's 4 or 5, 9 things. He barely touched one gun and got that damage, which then he retreated. So then I decided, okay, now it's time to actually pay you some real attention. So I sent in a different Seawolf fleet. This is the one that has the Cutlass missiles. This was the one that has the assault missiles. So the Cutlass missiles, they have the guidance scrambler, they have the reactive armor. Still very little armor, but much better suited against missiles. So I took out 2 of the Sea Scorpions, and I took my Hammerhead fleet and took out the other 2. And then he had yet another guard fleet, which was a bunch of stalker subs, but honestly, he wasn't there. Well, I say he wasn't there, but the last 2 ships turned around, so I don't really know. So honestly, with a Hammerhead, and this says this is just my cargo fleet, right? So it has range and it has lasers, which you really need, because you just need to overrun the stalkers. And once you're on top of them, the lasers will shoot the missiles into the water. Then I took the same cargo fleet, sent in the north side of the base, and he's a level 31, and he has the potential to set up a base I cannot break. But he had one minor thing, and that was you always have to check all around your base as to where it can be prepped. And he had both of his flaks that was only 2 water distances from the north side of his base. So coming in the entrance, his flaks were in a perfect location. But if you prep it coming from the north, his flaks were really easy to take out. And now they took forever to take out because they were right next to each other. But these 4 ships, given 3-4 minutes, took out both of the flaks. It took out 2 flaks and 1 Howie. And then I went in with my main fleet, and he has 5 victory mortars with all slide loaders, which normally spells death for me. So what I did was I used a bunker buster on a Cerebus rocket, which I didn't expect to die, but did die, so that means a special might have been slide loaders or something on there. And the Howies, I didn't wait for the Howies to die before I started moving forward. I would get maybe 2 volleys off, and then I would start moving into them. So, and Cerebus rockets you can aim at, start firing, and still move a little closer. So if your Cerebus rocket is in such a way that you can move down a channel and not actually move a whole lot closer, you can keep in motion. And so most of this death was actually from victory mortars, because I can't shoot out of the sky 5 VM4s with slide loader 3s. But it ended up taking his base, because at 1483, that's a pretty decent amount of stuff, right? And then he came in my base and decided, maybe not. Which is what we're looking at here. So what I really want to talk about was, somebody was asking about base design, and there's a number of people that watch these videos that are pretty new. So if you're if you know how to do a non-square base pretty much, and have that sort of stuff figured out, go in and shut it off, because you're not going to learn anything new. Um, but let me tell you a couple of things about base design that some people were asking. Somebody was asking about the narrow channels. A narrow channel is one water square. You have to have at least 2 water squares anywhere. You cannot have an area with just one. So you see here is 1, 2. Here is 1, 2. So you have to have that kind of width all the way around. You can't go any. So this is 3, right? This is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 4. And the reason I have 4, I'm going to put that back. The reason I have 4, if you're high enough and you have people with assault missiles that have the solid fuel booster 3s, and you have a warehouse all the way to the land, you need 4 waters and 1 land. And that's overkill. If you're not right against the water, which is right here, I have a block of wall, which is not a lot. You can get away with 3 waters and a land. And I think that there is a ship, because the guns are in the right spot and the center of the ship is in the right spot, that they could come right here and they could probably get this one. But most ships cannot do that, and that's why you see a conflicting argument over whether this is safe enough or not. For most ships it is safe, but I think there is a ship with assault missiles, if the assault missiles are the front guns, that it might be reachable. And the tip is that when you come in here and you do your little turn here, and if you start firing, the tip to make it work right is you actually click on the wall when you're shooting, and clicking on the wall will cause the ships to stop moving, and so they can just keep firing at the warehouse. So it's a plus and minus, right? If you didn't have the walls there, it actually is safer. I have the walls there for blitzing fleets, because blitzing fleets will come in here and then they have to run down these walls, and they're not actually safe until they get back here, and then when they get back here they have to deal with all of the mortars over again, so they have to keep moving the whole time. That's why I have the walls. You don't want a square base. A square base is you're gonna lose too much every time. You know, you might use the argument of a square base as saying that, well, if they come in one side, yeah, they might get half of it, but they won't get the other half because they just don't have the time to circle the entire base. Maybe not. Some people are. It's easier to force them to go the path that you chose. So when you have a maze, when you have basically an island and with a moat, you are forcing them to go down the path that you want them to go down. They can't pick any old random direction. You know exactly how they're going to get into your base. Another tip for base design that you really want to be careful of is prepping. You really want to be careful of, think of solid rocket boosters 3, all 360 degrees around your base. What's going to happen if they go anywhere in here? Are they going to be able to take out any of your guns, especially any of your guns that you really care about? The guy I was just talking about, he had 2 flaks, and they were in an area that I could take out outside of his base. Well, I took him out, and then when I sent my base fleet in with missile fleets, man, they just, it wasn't that, I took a lot of damage because they had 5 victory mortars, but it wasn't that hard. I didn't really have to stop that much. I almost didn't stop at all. So you really want to make sure your guns, like say this one right here, if you are right here, this one can get shot at, right? But in all reality, this one can get shot at from here too. So if you have a gun that can be hit before commitment, and what I basically mean by commitment is what you also don't want to happen is you don't want to have where they can come across one gun at a time and only have to deal with one gun at a time. It's the difference in like a fleet versus fleet battle where the guy is like, he didn't group all of his ships together, they're scattered, and you grouped all of yours together, so you go, and when you actually hit one of his ships, well, you have 5 ships firing and he has 1 ship firing. Well, you know what, you're going to take his ship down pretty fast and you're going to wear him out, and you're always going to win if he separates his fleet like that. Same idea. If he's over here, you could take that gun out and he's going to have that firing at him, that firing at him. That's about it. So he's going to have 2 guns fired at him. But what you really want to design is an engagement point. So from my base, the engagement point is about right here. And let me show you what I mean. You got to keep in mind. Actually, I can just do it this way. Okay. So actually, that is a little hard to see. Just use your memory. Right here, the victory mortar covers. The victory mortar covers. I guess maybe this war rig right here. The victory mortar covers. The victory mortar covers. The victory mortar covers. So by the time they get to this oil rig, which shooting at this guy, they're going to be about right here. So they're going to be about 4. Maybe this VM doesn't actually hit. They're going to have 4 victory mortars shooting at him right here when he's shooting at the Howie. And then when they come in for the Cerberus, they're going to come in about right here. And then all 5 victory mortars will be shooting at them. Most people that die at my base die right here. This is exactly where they die. Most people. If you're not blitzing, this is where you're going to die. Because honestly, if you watch, now see this ship right here, watch it. You're going to see that if you took your ships down to about right here, you actually have no victory mortar shooting at you because you're in a dead zone. My point of engagement is right here, and that's what you want to design. You want to know where your adversaries are going to die. You want to plan that out. You don't want to have a random, well, I'm going to sort of wear them down over time. Hopefully they do something stupid. There's enough people. Somebody's not going to do something stupid. So think about that. Mine is, if you look at my VMs, it's kind of like an arc. And these and the Howies and Cerebuses, they're really they're just to slow people down. The only reason there's a mix is because of blitzing fleets. If you do a layered armor blitzing fleet, 5 Howies, yeah, they're probably gonna like do a pinch. They're gonna do a pinch right here, and then they're gonna do when they're about here, they're gonna do a pinch. So when they come in here, these three are frozen. They're gonna come up about here. It's gonna unfreeze. A little residual from this one, maybe this one, and then they're gonna have to deal with these 2 hitting at them. But if they have layered armor, they can stand those 2 hitting at them until they get back here, and then they can kill them off. That's how a blitzing fleet would end up working. So you do a mix, so they won't likely have both. How do you know what type of design to do? Oops. I don't know. I'm not a good base designer. I usually will steal a design. I either will take it from the forums, or I will like this base design. It's not exactly like it is now. It used to be a little bit different. It's from a base that could take my base, and I could not take his base. And so I figured, hey, that's a pretty decent design. It protects prepping here. I modified this because you actually could bring a ship right here and prep that. That's actually a change from his original. And this further out is a little bit of a change from his original. You can, I have seen somebody try to prep a little bit over here, but you better have some hailstorms because you're going to have some dying. And the buildings are here because if you try to prep from this direction, you're going to take out the buildings. If you take out the buildings, you're getting closer to 25%, so you can't prep as much. But honestly, if you want to understand why you're trying to do something, you go to the player's guides, and there is a thing in here on base design from some guy. It's not on the first page anymore. And nope, not that one. This guy. And he's going to walk you through. He's not going to tell you really exactly how to build a base, but he's going to kind of walk you. Will you quit jumping? He's going to walk you through some of the key points of what you really care about. See, this is what I was saying. If you're right across, right up against the edge, you need 4. If you're a little bit further in, you can deal with 3. That's the type of thing. He's going to sort of walk you through the things you really care about. He's going to talk about, well, what is a turn and what is not a turn. You know, if you don't do a full turn, then there are some ships that they don't even slow down. They just do a little wiggle. You know, one of my older bases, if you watch some of my older videos, and you'll see it's sort of like a stair step sort of turning thing. Honestly, the dreads and then there was another ship, they didn't have to turn. They just did a little wiggle, and they never even slowed down. Whereas some ships actually had to do a lot of little turns. But unless you have like a whole 180 or something like that, the ships don't. You know, some ships have much better turn ability than others and don't even slow down. So he goes through stuff like that, and it's really worthwhile to understand why you're putting certain things where. For me, I use missiles mostly. So one thing, I'll give you a tip on missiles. If you have flak, unless you have flak 4, flak is not that useful. But flak 4 is actually pretty good. You need to stick them far enough away that they cannot be taken out. So if they come in here, they have to take out basically all 3 of these before they get to the flak, if they're using missiles. That's critically important. If they can take out one of your flak early, overpowering one flak is not that hard. Overpowering 2 flaks is really annoying, and anything more than 2 is just crazy. And I don't use the one that gives you extra salvos, because if you can keep both of them alive, that's more shots than one alive with extra salvos. So I use the one that prevents it from being rocketed. If you take a bunker buster at this one, it doesn't kill it. It only takes half of its life. And that, for me, that's critical, because that means they both will stay alive and both will still be running when they're hitting at the base. If you can bunker buster one of them, I can pretty much will get in your base. Another tip: ships, defending fleet. I am not a big fan of defending fleets that are allowed to move. If they're allowed to move, what I will do with a prep fleet, I will come in your base and I will sit right here and I will wait for those ships to come to me. So if you allow them to move, you know, I'm gonna be very, very, very patient. I'm gonna sit in an area that doesn't take damage to your base, so I don't hit the percentage, and I'm gonna wait for the ships to come out. You also want to make sure they're not. You want to also make sure these ships are not preppable. Oh, I'm at 32. Whereas like this one's preppable. This one, if you work at it, is preppable. This one is not. This one is, if you find the right little corner somewhere in this one or this one, if you really work it, this one is preppable, but you are taking VM hits and you got to do rockets, and you have basically 2 flaks that are. So this one is very tough to be preppable. This one is not preppable at all. You have to come into here, which brings you into a lot of VM fire. This one is actually used to be a little bit preppable, but when I added this in here, I think it's probably not. If it is, ever so slightly right there, but you'd have to really work at it. I used to have the dock up here, and then this was yet another block away, but that got taken out by somebody, so I realized that was not quite the best slot for it. Pick your defend fleet guns carefully so that they complement your base fleet guns. I've dealt with some bases where they were mortars, and when they were mortars, it was just mortars. Actually, what I did was I just took my fleet and I overlaid I overlaid I just put my ships on top of his, and so they couldn't fire anymore. So oh, that was the guy that took his base. So those are just some tips. You can always search the forums to get ideas of designs. You know, honestly, when you read about designs, you're going to hear people, nobody gives good comments. Everybody's going to say, oh, well, I can take it with 3 rockets and, you know, 27 dreadnoughts. Really, when you're reading them and you see a lot of negative comments, what you're really looking for is, are they negative comments about ships that that person actually has, or about some imaginary ships? If honestly a lot of the comments are about things that are probably imaginary ships, that might actually be a really good base. You know, they might be saying, oh, well, I couldn't take it with the fleet I have, but if I had, you know, something that maybe one guy in the entire game has, then I could take your fleet. Then they could take your base. Well, that's probably a good base then. So just realize that when you're looking at base designs. So that's just some tips, some ideas. So I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.